Let me share my screen and let me know if you see my screen. So,
see it.
Okay, cool. And let me get to the presentation. Okay, thank you everyone who joined my talk. I'm sorry. So it's about Tomtit, simple Raku task runner. Let me introduce a little bit myself. Just a sec. So yeah, my name is Alexey Melezhik. You can find me as Melezhik in Raku channel on GitHub. I'm married, have 2 kids. I'm based in US, Texas. Work most of the time as a DevOps for one big consulting company. And I'm Raku and open source enthusiast. And I also offer some tools dedicated to DevOps and automation mostly, including Sparrow, Sparky, Tomtit, and Tomtit to name a few. As you could see, I'm just love to create tools for automation in DevOps. And get next slide. Today I'm going to talk about Tomtit. Well, welcome Tomtit. Well, Tomtit is a task runner. So maybe some of you already heard of well-known task runners like Make, GoTask. There is also a task runner in Raku, which is called Ache. Well, Tomtit is similar, but aims to be a little bit more simpler and a little bit more efficient in a sense. It allows you to create command line scripts harness, command line applications in easy way. And also it works really well with, I call it project-oriented tasks. When you have this project and you have some day-to-day tasks around project, like you want to build dependencies, update dependencies, you want to run some reports, whatever. And so you install, basically you install Tomtit scenarios in your project, and you could use them straight away as a part of a project. And Tomtit has a lot of other features. Some of them I will try to cover today in this presentation. For example, profiles, Sparrow plugins, environments, etc. And here is a very high level design of a Tomtit. So in the center, we have Tomtit itself, which for end user, this is a bunch of Raku scenarios, scripts written in Raku. Okay, but Tomtit scenario would run, this is called tasks. So tasks are low-level building blocks. Basically, they are just also scripts written on different languages. You could use a language on your choice. And so in that sense, Tomtit acts as orchestrator, high-level orchestrator, where you would run those tasks from Raku API. And we will see it very soon how we could do this. So there is also idea of profiles. Well, profiles allow one to distribute reusable Tomtit scenarios by the means of standard Raku modules, where you might have a bunch of typical scenarios, say to work with, for example, Azure DevOps, and you could create Raku module to distribute those scenarios, and end users just need to install this Raku module, and they have all these scenarios available immediately. There is also idea of environments. So environments, basically implementation of logical environments where you might have different configurations for production, for development, for different contexts. And you could switch between environments, and the environments basically they just plain Raku files returning hash as the last instruction. and you could include them into your Tomtit infrastructure. And last but not the least, we have Sparrow repositories, where you could convert tasks into Sparrow plugins and distribute tasks by using remote repositories. It's kind of cpan or any module repositories, but with the idea of distributing those tasks. And yeah, today I'm going to give you a practical example, a really simple example, how we could develop Tomtit project. And we have this check server task where we're just going to check a given TCP IP to check server and a port by using check circuit Raku module written by Jonathan Stowe. And this is really simple example, but it will give you the idea of all essential steps and parts of Tomtit architecture, right? Let's go to it. Let me know if you see my terminal, if font size is good for you. Is it big enough? Is it okay? So let me see.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so
It says maybe a little bigger.
A little bigger, yeah. This is because I can see it clearly. Is it better now? Is it bigger?
That's good for me.
Yes, that's good.
Okay, so I can. Okay, let's try that size. Okay, so first of all, install Tomtit. This is just a Raku module. Okay, so it's installed, and first thing we have to do, we have to just create a directory representing our project. Okay, and let's go check server. And second thing we have to do, we have to initialize the project by using command line API for Tomtit, which is called Tom. It will create all underlying files. So for the start, we see we have no scenarios. It's empty list, and we have some default environment. Okay, so let me start with a real simple task where we could have the idea what typical users has to do to start working with Tomtit. So let's create a really simple hello world task. Okay, and like I said, from endpoint user, this is just a regular Raku file. You could have any Raku code in here, but most of the time you would use task run function imported by Tomtit. So task run function basically accepts the first argument, which is going to be a path to our task. Okay. A directory with our task, and this is really simple. So we have our first Tomtit scenarios. Now, when we have it, we could run it. So okay, so and we have expected error, which said that there is no such a directory. And what we have to, all we have to do, we have to create it first. So basically, we're running task which does not yet exist, right? So, and once we create a directory for the task, let's create task itself. For this very first example, I'm going to use Bash as the language. If you remember that those tasks we could use different languages, and we're going to continue with Raku in the next example. But just an example that you could use different languages, right? For tasks. So let's have a really simple thing here. Hello world, print it out. Okay. And let's run the task again. So here we are. So we have this hello world message. The first line tells us that this task bash, this bash task executed, and it's located in this specific folder. Okay. And another simple example how we could. So, and again, from Tomtit point of view, this is just a regular Raku function, right? So let me show how we could pass some parameters. Let's say we want to print hello Raku. So with the minimal code modifications. So here we just pass this name parameter at the hash into task run function. And now let's modify a little bit our underlying bash task. And here we're going to use config function, which is imported and implemented by Tomtit to be more accurate by Sparrow, because Tomtit built on top of Sparrow automation framework, but I'm not going to tell about all that today. Anyway, so we have this config function that accepts name of parameter. And let me run the scenario again. Yeah, we have hello Raku. And just another example how we customize or configure, it better say configure our task. So let's say we want some default value. So if we don't pass anything, we still want to print something meaningful. And so, for example, I want to print hello shell if I don't pass anything. So I do so by just creating a config YAML file in the root in the root directory for my task. And let me demonstrate it. So let's comment the passing of name parameters in here. And let's run our scenario again. Okay, good. We have hello shell. Okay, now this is really simple example. Now let's recall that our idea to check service status using check circuit module. And for that task, I'm gonna use check circuit module, Raku module. Okay, let me get to documentation. And yeah, and first of all, the same way as we did with the bash task, let's create another task. I'm sorry, just wrong syntax. Yeah, I have to give it a name, of course. So let's call our task scenario check server. Okay, it's the same way. We just use the task run function, have some path for directory. It could be any path. Just for simplicity, I keep everything under .tom directory. And I named task folder the same as the task as a scenario check server. Okay, and so let me make a folder for our future task. And now, because it's going to, like I said, we're going to use Raku for this task. So the task should be named task.raku. Okay, and I'm just going to use the code sample in the documentation. It's pretty simple, and modify it a little bit. Okay, so the first version of a task, we're going to use localhost and port 80. But in the future, I'm going to modify the code so those host and port will be passed as name parameters as well. Okay, but let's run it as with this simple configuration right now. So the first parameter should be port, and the second one going to be host. Okay, so in case this task checks if host and port is available. So if it is, it will print host port online. Okay, if it does not, it will print host port is offline. Really simple code. Okay, and let's run. Okay, this is expected error because apparently we don't have check circuit module installed in our machine. Before install it, let me give a really good example how we could additionally debug our task. So if we just export a special Sparrow variable, so we will run our task and it will make Tomtit to dump code of every task before it gets run. So and we see in here, we see that we run task Raku from this location, and we have a source code, which is pretty convenient, and we have the stack trace referencing so there is no check circuit module, line number 1 in here. It's this task, and we could see the source code. It's pretty convenient if you want to debug tasks. Okay, so now let me install the check circuit. It shouldn't take long. Okay, so it's installed. Let me run scenario again. Okay, so I just have an error in my Raku task. It's easy to fix, I believe. So let me see. Yeah, I just forgot to add the semicolon in here. Let me run it again. Well, nothing listens to the localhost 80 on this machine, and it's obvious that we have localhost 80 is offline. Now, let's say I'm gradually coming to the idea of an environment. So let's say we have two environments. So we have dev environment where we have localhost in 80, and we have, say, production environment where we have Raku.org port 443. So, and we want sometimes change the environments and check different hosts. So how we could do this using Tomtit? Well, it's pretty easy. And we have to create environments. So let's create a couple of environments. Well, environments should be, as you remember, just Raku hash. And we have this host, which is localhost. And we have port, which is 80 for dev. Well, and the same idea for prod. So host is going to be Raku.org. Let's imagine I'm developer of Raku.org and I develop in dev. It's like localhost on production is 443 Raku.org, which makes sense. Now, so let's modify a little bit our high-level Tomtit scenario, so that we could pass the host and port parameters by referencing respected environments. So we're going to do, we're doing so by using config function again, but this is different config function, but it's just the same name, where we just referencing the environment. So config function in Tomtit scenario allows us to access to active environment. Okay, so, and now let me also change underline Raku task. So instead of using hard-coded values, so as you probably should guess now, we're going to use config function that allows us to pass named parameters, right? So for host, and the same idea for port. Okay, so okay. Now, if I run this scenario like I did before, so it's not going to work because I would run it. I will run it with default environment, which doesn't have anything in it. So I have to explicitly set environment when I run Tomtit scenario, and I do so by using even and option. So let's run this scenario for dev, and we should see localhost 80 is offline. Yeah, you see it works as expected, and we see in the very first line, so it reads this dev environment, right? And let's try the same for production, and Raku.org, I believe, should be available on port 443, but let's check it. Okay, so Raku.org 443 is online, which is good. Okay, now, so how many minutes I have? So I have 10 minutes to end of my presentation. Okay, let's say we want to share this check server task with others. How we do so? So there is now we have this idea of plugins. Okay, let's convert this task into plugin. It's very easy to do so because we always have everything right now for that. Let's create some directory for plugin source code. And I just copy the content of our task, which already in here in our Tomtit project. Let me see, it should be in here. So, okay, so project, check server, yeah. Tasks, yes, here we are. So check server. So just copying here, right? And it is the same task that we just ran before. Now, all we have to do to make it plugin is really simple step. We have to create a plugin specification in Sparrow format with two minimal parameters, which is the name of a plugin. Let it be the same check server and version of the plugin. So we're almost here, and now we're just using command line for Sparrow to upload this plugin into our repository. Now a small comment here. So I'm not going to use a real remote repository, but the idea is the same. So if we use a local repository, just for I don't have enough time to do this completely as I did it if I had a remote repository. But anyway, so we upload this plugin into the local repository, and it said that the plugin already exists. That's fine. I just did it before when I did rehearsal. So, and if we search our local repository, let me update the cache first. So we will see that this plugin is available in here, version 001. It's never been installed. Okay, now we have this plugin, and let's imagine this plugin is available. This repository is HTTP remote repository, which is completely, which is easy to do. And just in this case, it's just a local repository. Now we have this task. What we could do. So let's go back to our Tomtit project, and instead of running the local task, let me remove task itself. Okay, so it's gone. We don't have it, right? And now, instead of referencing this local task, I no longer need this because I have this idea of plugin. So the first parameter is going to be human readable title, and the second one is the name of the plugin. Okay, and let me run this scenario again for production, for example. And you see it's the same, right? So, and you could see that the first line tells us that it's installing check server version 001 from our local repository, which is a default repository for our Sparrow plugin, but it could be HTTP repository as well. Okay, I have 5 minutes left, and now last but not the least, let's take even step further, and let's say we want to distribute this cool check server Tomtit scenario so that other people could use it as a Raku module. Well, how can we do this? It's very easy. We have to create a Raku module which represents the Tomtit profile. Okay, let's create some directory. Let's call it Tomtit NetTools. Okay, and let me copy prepared example of Melezhik JSON file. I don't have time to do it from the scratch, but the Melezhik JSON file is pretty easy. It's just exactly what was previously told on previous presentation. So we have the module name. It could be anything, but for convenience, we could call it Tomtit profile NetTools. And that we're going to create this module straight away right now. And we have these resources. Well, resources allows us to copy the content of our Tomtit scenario as a module resource and distribute it later. I'll show you how we're going to do this. So let's create a module directory. Again, just let me copy the example I prepared before. And we have this sample Raku mode, and now it should be called Net Tools Raku mode, right? And now, if you take a look at NetTools Raku mode, it's really simple. So there's a module Tomtit profile NetTools. All it does is export profile data subroutine that should return a hash map that will contain all the available Tomtit scenarios distributed as distribution resources. In our case, we only have one, the check server. This is the name of the scenario, and this is the content. So to make it work, well, the last thing we have to do, we have to create copy our Tomtit scenario. So we already have in here into resources directory. Okay, I have to create the resources directory first. Okay, and now I can copy it. So we have these resources. Check server. Let me check just in case where's the, okay, I should have copied into this location. Yeah, of course. Now let me check again the content of our module, Tomtit profile NetTools. Okay, let me just install this module. Okay, so it is installed now. We finally understand this. We will understand the idea behind all that. So let's go back again to our check server Tomtit project. And now let's remove our scenario. We don't have it right now. Okay, if we list, so we don't have it in the list, just in case we could check it in .tom directory. It doesn't exist. Okay, but now what we could do, we could say profile, just a sec, Tom profile, in the name of the module, we just substituted the dots by hyphens. I'm not going to explain right now why we do this. I just don't have enough time. But anyway, so we basically use this profile, which is implemented as Raku module, which we previously installed. Now, if we list our scenarios list, we will see we have this check server in here. And you even see the source code just in case. And it's exactly what we had before, right? And we could distribute that way so many scenarios as we want, and we could group them logically and create the respective Raku models and just use Raku models as a transport mechanism. And the last bit, let me run the same just to make it sure everything is good. And it is good. Raku.org 443 is online. And that's it. Almost in time. And let me go back to my presentation. So today we'll learn a little bit about Tomtit. And you have any questions, comments, feel free to ask them. So there is a Tomtit source code in GitHub. And like I said, you can reach me out on RC channel or write me email. Thank you for watching.